We've got some really interesting tech cards, and I can see in both deck lists there are cards that could shake up this matchup quite considerably.
Yep, absolutely. A fantastic deck piloted by both of our incredible players. Both players are 9-1-1 right now, and there's a plentiful amount of accolades between them. I mean, Caleb himself, 4-time regional champion. You can't be a good player without having to win multiple regionals, and especially when you win 3 in one season. But we're also speaking about Makani. He's got fantastic results as well. As we do get a chance, a glimpse of those prizes. Amy, what are we seeing here?
Not too shabby on either side. I'm not a huge fan of the 2 Crispin because they are, of course, there's a 3 of in Caleb's deck, but getting those is essential for kind of having that 1-up in getting on with the game and taking those early prize cards. Being able to attack first is going to be huge, so I'm not feeling great about that.
Yeah, but I'm sure if there's any players that are able to overcome any of their prizes, it will be these 2.
Of course.
So, game face is on from both our players right now. They've been in these positions before. I mean, Makani's going to be looking to try and improve on that previous 12th place, and we're kicking things off here, Amy. This is Swiss round 12, and this is Caleb Gedemer with his Dragapult versus Makani Tran with his Dragapult.
You know what? Dragapult there may be, but we're starting off with some Monkey business as Monkey Dory faces off against, guess what, Monkey Dory. Very important when you're playing against another Dragapult deck to play those Monkey Dory. Sometimes Monkey Dory isn't actually great into a lot of other matchups right now, but you need to play it to counter the other Dragapult. So here we go, of course, and we see Caleb grabbing that first Dreepy, very importantly so.
Yeah, exactly. Having to set up that board, making sure we can use all of those items. Caleb, we playing those Ultra Balls now, the Poképad, just to make sure that Purdue, if it ever does come down, we're not having to be stuck with item cards in the hand. So there is an instant pick of a Dracloak by Caleb here, just to make sure we have it, just so we have Recon Directive live for a future turn. And then it will be, I'm sure, Makani looking, trying to build out their board state as well.
How important do you think it is, Alex, at this stage to get as many Dreepy out as possible? Like, can you bring that back, or is it really kind of whoever gets the most Dreepy has more success?
Well, it's usually the case that being able to get Dracloak is probably the key aspect, so you can keep Recon Directive and seeing more cards, as we do see the Poképad come down from Makani now as well. But with both of these types of archetypes, especially when they're kind of more the slower types of Dragapult, you're not really under too much threat. You can still spend a couple of more turns to try and find those Dreepies, find those Dracloaks, and then get into the game that way. So long as you can fire off a very highly valuable Phantom Dive before your opponent, especially when you can utilize it alongside something like that Monkey Dory to try and protect yourself from your opponent's ones.
Very well said, Alex. Makani now just checking through the entire deck and being very thorough in checking which cards are in his prizes. Being able to make that assessment is the true value of a fantastic Dragapult player who will be very used to playing a mirror match at this stage.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, both of these players have played plentiful of mirror matches thus far. Both players, there's only one loss to a Dragapult mirror between them that they've shared across this weekend so far, as well as we now have that Lily's Determination for the full 8 cards. So both players will have a game plan and how to deal with it. There will be some cute tech inclusions that we'll have to keep an eye out for, but let's see what we're going to actually have to just pay attention for Makani's turn.
Makani has shown off one of the tech cards I was alluding to earlier. So Makani is playing 06 Machinations, which although may not typically be for the Dragapult mirror, it could be one of the factors that might grab Makani a win, as they'll be able to kind of just stop Caleb from having this wonderfully very tailored hand after using all those Recon Directive. Makani, of course, going in and using an Ultra Ball to get that first Dracloak in hand. And it begins with each player now being able to start building that board. Caleb brings the first Dracloak, of course, and attaches that Fire-type energy.
Yep, so it's going to be really important here just to make sure we can stabilize that board. So Caleb will be looking to try and get those Dreepies on and live right now on this turn, because the longer he does leave it, it does mean they become under threat to what Makani could do on their turn. So, wow, working with plenty of cards there, Amy.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. Early hands with lots of cards. Unless Caleb chooses to play a lot of them, Makani could jump back in with that Zero-6 Machination. That could really be a hard hitter at the early stages of the game if Makani chooses. Now, of course, I've shown, oh, look at that, Caleb. Yes, oh, you can see that Caleb, of course, does run Rabska. Showing that off right now by collecting Relor and Badu off of that Buddy Poffin. Of course, Rabska does protect Caleb's board against Makani's Dragapult secondary effect of the attack there using Spherical Shield. And now we might run into a little bit of a sticky situation as Caleb now has Badu and Makani doesn't have access.
Yeah, absolutely. Rabska being one way to combat some aspects of the mirror match. And here comes Recon Directive now. Choice between the Meowth EX and the Unfair Stamp. A couple of interesting decisions to be made by Caleb there. More item cards does mean he could have been susceptible to a Badu from Makani, but we do know that Badu is currently sitting in the prizes. Itchy Pollen not going to be coming from Makani in this game for the moment, but we will be getting it from Caleb here. Caleb will be firing off an Itchy Pollen. Does send over 10 damage on that Monkey Dory, but Makani is trapped with those item cards, if any, are in hand.
No items for Makani this turn, as Badu has made it relatively itchy on the other side of the board. So Makani now goes ahead, evolves that first Dreepy, and he attaches the Fire-type energy to his first Recloak. It's time to Lily's Determination, and Makani's going to be looking to get a slightly better hand than one full of item cards that he's not allowed to play right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is one of the most key aspects that you have to be following along when you're playing Dragapult EX as a deck, having to play down your item cards pre-Itchy Pollen, sometimes in advance. That's why we saw the early grab of the Dracloak from Makani, and now we get the Recon Directive, sending one of those double Crushing Hammers, one of them straight to the bottom, unplayable, and it looks like it's just a pass over here. So Caleb does have an opportunity really to take the initiative, but sometimes being patient is more important.
Okay, right. Let's see what Caleb's got in store for us. I imagine we're going to possibly just stick around with this Badu in the active as, you know, that was a good tell that Makani didn't have much going on. So Caleb might just go for some Recon Directive, bringing that hand size up and tailoring plenty ready for future turns. Rabska hits the board running. And of course, Makani's like, oh no, not that. Rabska, of course, protecting against Dragapult's attack. So at this stage now, Caleb does have that fully advantageous position in their court, regardless of not having a Dragapult on the field yet.
Yeah, one of those tech inclusions that allows you to really kind of maybe take a small percentage gain into other Dragapults, of course, and just because you're able to stop a number of sort of shenanigans that comes down from your opponent's side, as Caleb does find another Dracloak there from that Pokepad. Of course, full access to items, and does also find a Dragapult from the first Recon Directive, Amy.
Okay, yeah, and it looks like Caleb took the boss's orders as well, so a really wonderfully tailored hand at this stage so that Caleb has every single trick up his sleeve ready for when Makani is no longer item locked. But Caleb really has full control right now. A Crushing Hammer success! And that is the start of each Crushing Hammer. You guys are going to have to count with me how many times a Crushing Hammer hits head in this best of 3.
And we're going straight into the Phantom Dive as well, thinking that that Crushing Hammer sets back Makani so far because of the energy attachment, because then Makani has to also Crispin to get energy attachments to even get the Phantom Dive off before even then being able to deal and with Caleb's board. But this is just pushing Caleb in such an advantageous position. Knockouts on the Monkey Dory here and 3 damage counters on the Dracloak and Dreepia piece. It's looking really, really strong here for Caleb.
Makani is forced into a weird position where he has to use a Crispin to be able to attack this turn. If Makani is unable to launch and attack this turn, unfortunately, he will begin to continue to just flow behind as Caleb runs towards the finish line of this game 1.
It's going to be a real tricky scenario here. This is where the mirror match that we're seeing with those Crushing Hammers is going to be really, really important to keep an eye out on. If Makani, for example, could hit maybe double heads on the Crushing Hammers, that can really, again, set himself back in a decent position. But again, it's asking a lot. There's one.
Ooh, okay. Is it the fire? Yeah, it's the fire type energy. Going for the second for both. Energy, no, not quite.
Number 3.
Oh,
33%.
No, that doesn't quite slow Caleb down enough.
Yep, because it doesn't set the turn completely behind for Caleb, because then we can just get an energy attachment from hand, but he finds the 4.
Here we go, Alex!
Just not the hammers we wanted. But this is still a scenario. You've still hit 1. Is there still a way from this scenario to actually play this out?
It was so close to setting Caleb back a turn. That's exactly what Makani is going to be looking to do in the future, is disrupt in an attempt to overtake in the prize race.
Yeah, it doesn't look like we have Crispin in hand right now. There is a way of doing so with Meowth EX, but a Ultra Ball also an option to try and get the Dragapult live as well. Not trying to give up a Dracloak in the active spot, of course.
Ultra Ball comes into play, grabbing Pheasantipity EX, so Makani can flip the script for 3 further cards in an attempt to draw their way out of this situation. However, first Makani has decided it's determination time, and Lily is the gal to get that done, shuffling the hand into their deck and drawing a full 8 cards. A phenomenal draw supporter that's really changed the tide of consistency with a plethora of decks.
So both Recon Directors have been used, so we're just going to see the 8s plus the 3 from Flip the Script, so 11 cards we'll see here.
That's a lot of cards, and mid-turn as well. We've already seen Makani use those Recon Directive. It's time now to flip the script, but it doesn't look to me much like that helped, unfortunately.
We have Dragapult in hand already, so we can evolve up the active. Does have 30 damage currently on it, so we can Jet Headbutt for 70 damage, maybe start putting things in range.
Yes.
But let's just see exactly how Makani will play out this turn, because Makani is still staring down at a Monkey Dory on Caleb's side, so it's just not an attack, it's just a pass over. Doesn't want to give up anything like that, but Crushing Hammers from Caleb.
Failure.
As well.
Another Tails, and energy is not removed from Makani's Pokemon. Caleb needs to continue to stem the flow of Makani's comeback. But what's the play? We've got plenty of draw power here if you're Caleb, so Caleb's able to Recon Directive. However, the bench is full, so Caleb won't be able to use any other Pokemon to help. He can only use what's on the board right now.
Yeah, well, right now there's some good targets for a Phantom Dive. I think just even being able to apply pressure on this Dragapult EX in the active spot, we can remove also some draw engine on Makani's side if we choose to do so as well, before that evolves up to Dragapult EX again and also stays out of range. Does activate Pheasantipity EX, flip the script, but I think that's not something you have to worry too much about right now, as Crushing Hammer and another Dracloak has been pulled into hand from those Recon Directors, Amy. Looks like we're going again.
For it again. Here we are. It's something.
Oh, yeah, looks like a heads. The Psychic Energy is gone. And that's once again just by playing a card that can completely turn the tide in this matchup. It's really coming up trumps here, and we get the Dark energy also on Monkey Dory as well. Of course, the crisping attachment of the fire to the active. And there it is, Phantom Dive on the active. KO on the Dracloak. Makani really up against the wall right now.
Makani now has to really try and climb this hill, but the hill is getting steeper somehow as Makani sits with 0 energy on board. So again, he's forced to crisp in this turn if he's going to launch a return attack in Caleb's direction, but won't get the additional damage to Caleb's benched Pokemon. So still, unfortunately, Makani sits on the back foot and continues this uphill struggle. It's not impossible. The comeback potential is there for Makani. We've got cards like Special Red Card. We've got cards like Unfair Stamp available to Makani. So this is where his sequencing will be essential to a potential victory.
Yep, if there's ever a deck that can play from behind, it usually is this one because of the amount of damage you can apply and amount of pressure you can apply to your opponent. The only trouble, that Rabsca's really causing a bit of a pain for Makani's side. So we have to target it down. This boss's orders on the Rabsca right now will mean, well, I mean, with 70 HP, we can actually just headbutt it.
Yeah, headbutt does indeed take out Rabsca, but not just that, Alex. Makani is utilizing Unfair Stamp. Ace Spec has been activated. Unfair Stamp can only be utilized if one of your Pokemon were knocked out on your opponent's last turn. Each player shuffles their hand into deck, and you draw 5 cards. However, your opponent draws 2. Caleb will now only have 2 cards to start his turn. Makani will have 5. And Makani is looking to knock out that Rabsca. That rascal of Rabsca is finally down, and Caleb will struggle to bring that back, I'm sure.
So Makani does finally take the first prize of this Swiss round, 12 for themselves. Caleb, though, has the initiative, can take further prizes here, could take down this Dragapult EX, start again, dropping damage counters on Makani's side of the board. Which route will Caleb go down here? We've got Recon Directors to use first, Amy.
Yeah, Recon Directive, once again, an absolutely essential ability in this deck, and for very good reason. Trade style effects like this give decks so much draw power. Seeing more cards is one of the most powerful engines that we have available in the trading card game right now. And the boss's orders is it! That's enough for Caleb to take the win! Dragapult diving into an absolutely definitive victory for this game 1.
Yep, Caleb able to set up that board, set up that Rabsca, really slow down Makani with those crushing hammers as well. Like I said, if Makani was able to hit 1 more of those crushing hammers on that turn, he did play 4 in 1 turn, it might have been a different story, but I think just being able to get Rabsca up, limiting the power and damage output of Phantom Dive, but then being able to fire off so many of your own, it's just too much to ask from Makani's side.
You could say it's a crushing defeat at the mercy of those hammers. Unfortunately for Makani, Makani has chosen to go second in game 2.
Yep, and let's bring our resident expert to talk about how that game went down. Pablo, are you there?
I am here, Alex, and what a game we just saw. It feels like Caleb just has such an overwhelming advantage just based on the deck list, right? That Rabsca is really, like, it takes away Dragapult's main attraction, which is those extra damage counters to the bench, right? When you get that possibility and you deny your opponent that possibility, and you both match in the crushing hammer count, Caleb definitely has a big advantage. Makani needs to be hyper aggressive in this match and really needs to flip more than 1 heads off of those crushing hammers, unlike in game 1, to really try and get into this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're straight into the thick of things here. Makani has decided to go second in this game 2, as we now get a chance to glimpse at those prizes alongside Caleb.
Relor? No! Why? Relor was so essential to Caleb being able to control the massive tension in that previous game. And with 2 Dreepy prized, and Caleb's got the special red card prized. Honestly, those prize cards are not looking too hot to me.
Yeah, Makani might get some insight into what Caleb actually places on that bench shortly, as well as it looks like 1 Dreepy's being maneuvered to the front there. But what's the other decision? It has to be that Badoo is the only other target. Well, not typical, not what you usually want to see, but does that sort of give any information to Makani for his future turn, especially when you're staring down at Makani's Badoo as well. Something that Makani was not able to really get out in the last game, of course, because it was prized.
And now, the last-ditch catch being activated to grab Lily's determination, setting Caleb up for success, knowing that he's going to be item locked imminently.
Yeah, Lily's determination coming to hand is going to be so important again. Thinking about what else is in that hand, what else can Caleb do? Is there an NG attachment? Yes, there could be to the active. That could be one way to pivot around, maybe having to go into Badoo himself on a future turn, but just kind of deciding maybe what energy to commit at this moment. Of course, Makani does have access to Crushing Hammer, so it could be quite annoying to deal with at the same time.
Yeah, I think that was a really good assessment, Alex. Caleb's thought, actually, this isn't really the appropriate time to be attaching my energy. And we move on to Makani's turn. Makani now getting the first attack, so Makani will be able to launch off Itchy Pollen, and we get to see these prize cards. So 1 Crushing Hammer, 1 Dragapult isn't too bad, but we did see how impactful the Crushing Hammers were in the last game. Can that be too troublesome for Makani? We will have to stay glued to our seats to find out.
Yep, just going through and double checking what has been prized for this game 2 here. Remember, Makani does need to win this game to bring this back level for the moment. But doing the active spots, we know we're going to be trying to slow down the game from Caleb's side. As a Dreepy does hit the board now, Makani choosing that as the target from the Pokepad, and a Fire NG attachment with a Lily's Determination as well.
Lily's Determination once again giving Makani that full 8 cards, a breath of fresh air, and hopefully it will include some more Dreepy power ready so that Makani can start launching those abilities again and again to properly begin making a wonderful handful of cherry-picked cards to try and take himself to a victory this time.
And this is one of the few things where when you get the option to go first or second into a matchup, and especially when you have access to things like Badoo, Makani made that decision to go second just to be able to inhibit and slow down where possible. This is where all those items now as well being played down, because we have seen, of course, there's a Badoo waiting right on Caleb's side. Makani just getting rid of those items out of the hands, making sure we get value out of them now before we get Itchy Pollen locked.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's all about. Makani needs to play all of those item cards down because he's not going to be able to play them soon. So it is absolutely time to get maximum value out of each of those cards. It's time for Itchy Pollen. Caleb now has the tricky task of no item cards, but he needs to evolve these Dreepy and get that draw engine firmly online.
Yep, so it looks like the energy committed to the active Dreepy now. That will provide the pivot, the benching of the Pheasantipity, sort of maybe give some more clues to what Caleb may or may not have access to currently in this game, as we now get the Lily's Determination for 8 cards as well. One of the good things, Makani was able to commit the energy and also get the item lock Itchy Pollen. That means we were safe from Crushing Hammers. And if Caleb can do the same, it might be quite useful as well.
Caleb now gets that fresh hand. We get to have a little cheeky peek and see if it's better. And it is! We get double Dracoloak. We can see there in the hand. So, of course, Caleb's going to go ahead, play those down, and begin Recon Directive.
Yep, finds double supporter for this first one. We get the second one coming shortly, I'm sure, as well.
Another recon directive. Continue to make that hand as advantageous as he can to bring all of the puzzle pieces together. The puzzle currently is in the box, and Caleb is using Dracloak to sort them. A retreat firmly into Badoo. Of course, Caleb is ready to launch some more Itchy Pollen over to Makani.
Yeah, absolutely. Caleb there finding a Crispin on that second recon directive. Already held onto a Dragapult EX as well, so I'm sure we're going to see something soon. But we do get a boss's orders into the Meowth EX and an Itchy Pollen. Now, this is another aspect where we're just completely slowing Caleb's board, because even with a Crispin, we're not going to be firing off a Phantom Dive, or Caleb won't be firing off a Phantom Dive anytime soon, because we can't attach free energies, Amy.
Yeah, Caleb won't be able to do that. And also Caleb will be forced into what we might consider wasting an energy attachment to Meowth just simply for that retreat cost. Regardless, Caleb's chosen Crispin as the supporter for turn, selecting a dark type energy and a fire type energy from his deck. One of them must be attached to a Pokemon and the other can go to Caleb's hand to be attached later for turn. This might give a little bit of acceleration, but I don't think it's going to be enough.
So it's an interesting turn here, because we need to, of course, retreat, or Caleb will need to retreat away from that Meowth EX to maybe go into maybe another turn, a slower turn, but can also get the attachment of Monkey Dory and actually remove that opposing Badoo out of play as well for this turn at the same time. So let's see how this recon directive treats Caleb here. And the second one, I think there was a Crushing Hammers that went for the first one there, and it might have been, I think it looked like a Lily's Determination that was sent to the bottom of the deck. Can we prep a future turn with enough energies or Crispins to maybe fire off a Dragapult at some stage? We just need to protect the board.
Retreat Meowth by discarding that fire type energy. Adrenabrain onto Badoo, and of course then Caleb's Badoo, after a cheeky Team Rocket's Watchtower, gets to use Itchy Pollen to knock out the opposing Badoo, and onto Makani's item lock turn, Caleb taking his first prize card.
Yeah, a really nice swing of turns here. Of course, Makani will still have that Dracloak there with double energies already attached. Monkey Dory also coming into the hand from all of the recon directives that have been used now, and it's just a pass over. The hand is not looking too pretty. They're having to just sit with the active Dracloak with no energy attached to it.
It's not feeling good, Alex. It's just not feeling good. If I was in Makani's position, I wouldn't be feeling too great. I've lost my Badoo, and now I'm really kind of sat here for a little bit trying to reconstruct a more advantageous scenario. Caleb now kind of has a little bit of time to reconstruct his own hand. And again, we've just seen that he's able to construct this perfect notion of, okay, I'm going to Ultra Ball here, then he's going to be able to just continuously play every card from that hand that he's essentially cherry-picked. He's knows exactly what cards he needs to play in which order, and there's multiple turns worth of cards in his hand currently.
Well, the good thing for Makani right now, Caleb can't boss his orders and Crispin on the same turn. So we get another recon directive there. Just a couple of decisions, maybe some cards that are less useful for the moment. Caleb maybe wanting to use those Crushing Hammers for this turn and just kind of slow down Makani's side as well.
Here we go, Crushing Hammer number 1, and it's a...
Trying again.
Fail. No energy removal, but we're going to go again. Let's see. It's a success, but which type of energy is targeted? It's going to be that fire type energy. Caleb then attaching his own energy to a Dracloak to further strengthen this position he finds himself in. And I'm not sure if there's much else we can do other, absolutely, than potentially evolve into a Dragapult. Caleb does indeed get the first Dragapult on the board for this Swiss round 12. We're in game 2. Caleb won last time. Can he do it again?
Very interesting that Caleb chose the fire energy. I think typically most Dragon Ball lists do play fewer fire energies, so they are usually the greater target in this matchup for the Crushing Hammers. However, he probably doesn't know that Makani actually plays more fire than Psychic. So, kind of another interesting adaptation that Caleb might not know for the moment, but targeting the fire with that Crushing Hammer is something quite interesting, especially if he's going to start maybe keeping track of some of the resources that Makani has access to later down the line.
Yeah, it absolutely can be crucial in these mirror-style matches where you may not know your opponent's entire deck list, and even the smallest of change from the typical can make a big difference. Caleb, Itchy Pollen once more on Dracloak. Makani starting off with Recon Directive, of course. Boss's orders now in his hand, going for some more, putting the special red card to the bottom, knowing that it's not really time yet, and he can probably go and get that later on a turn where it's more advantageous to slow Caleb down. Lily's Determination comes through for a fresh hand of 8 cards.
Yep, protects the energy attached Dracloak as well with the Dragapult Evolution. So now it's just, what can we work with? What can Makani do? What will we see Makani do on this turn with those 8 cards? Does have access to Adrenabrain, so we can mess around with some of those damage counters that are on his board. There is an energy attachment, it looks like. Oh, maybe not, sorry, it was just a...
Recon Directive number 1. Still really looking out for a way to get back into this game, needs that extra energy attachment. Makani really needs to step up with the acceleration of the game. However, still being subject to item lock, Makani is really going to struggle when this hand may not be as fruitful as he'd expected.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess one of the things Makani will be keeping an eye out for as well. I mean, Caleb's board right now is only just the 1 Dracloak and, of course, the Dragapult EX. And then there's a couple of EX Pokemon that would give up 2 prizes there. And it's just both our players just making sure we're keeping track of exactly everything that's been happening across our table and board right now. Was the Recon Director that was used by the Dragapult that was evolved up. So maybe we're just getting some clarity here. One moment.
So what would be the best hand if I was Makani right now, Alex? What feels good right now to be able to swing this back? Because Makani's board state to me looks pretty strong in reality, but he really needs to get on with attacking, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's going to be quite difficult this turn because we've already played the Lily's Determination. So this active Dracloak doesn't have any energy, cannot be pivoted around for the moment. At some stage, what we're going to be having to try and target down and maybe just fire off a Phantom Dive on is something like that Serendipity, not actually give up or take prizes and flip the script and actual bench space to Caleb, and then actually start trying to manipulate the game from then onwards.
I've noticed Makani does play Rose's Encouragement, which might be a way in the late game to possibly accelerate that energy once again and kind of get back in. The lovely part about Dragapult is it has an absolutely fantastic time of making these really explosive comebacks, taking multiple prizes in a turn, and with the lack of that Rabska down on Caleb's board, it's looking like that possibility is absolutely in the room.
Okay, so we're just obviously getting... Our judges are just double-checking what's happened through this match so far. We've seen a number of Dracloak Recon Directors being used already. We're just kind of double-checking there's perhaps may have been an extra one used. That sometimes it's one thing that's sometimes a little bit difficult to track because some of our players turn or sort of tap their Pokemon to just kind of indicate that they have used the ability, but we're just double-checking alongside the judges whether that's been the case. But this is one of the reasons why we have judges there, being able to make sure we pick up on these things, and we'll try and get back into the action as soon as possible. But it's a really interesting sort of board state for both games. I mean, I've kind of already semi-mentioned it, that the direction that Makani has to be in, and that it's not really trying to give too much opportunity for Caleb to actually get some more Dreepies and Dracloaks down. And kind of not restabilize that board.
Yeah, indeed. And unfortunately, that's a tricky situation for both players, really, because Dragapult does have that way of changing the weight of the pen of kind of the scales very quickly, and we've got even more new cards in these decks which are utilizing those mechanics, and a lot of players, we even saw yesterday that some players were heading back to Sparkling Crystal in Dragapult. These two have both opted, of course, for Unfair Stamp, and I can really see why, because those comeback mechanics are so important in trying to prevent your opponent who already has explosive draw power, slowing them right down. It just feels good, right?
Yeah, absolutely, especially when we're seeing the Dragapult format
yeah.
kind of evolve to a stage where we have crushing hammers. Well, Sparkling Crystal is not something that can be impacted by that as much.
No, exactly.
So that's one way to kind of go around things at the moment. But like I said, we're just trying to get confirmation at the moment. At the moment, if you're just having to look back, it might have been an additional recon directive that may have been used, but we'll get full confirmation exactly what was there. Make sure we'll get the judges' ruling as well, because I think they're just kind of double checking, and then of course just making a key decision. Because remember, we're in a very high stakes match. Feature match right now.
Not only that, but these players have been playing for 2 days now. It's a long old tournament. And not only that, but these turns can really go on quite long, especially when you use a supporter mid-turn, like Lily's Determination, get that fresh hand. It can be easy to forget what you did beforehand and kind of accidentally go forward with that. But that's why we see a lot of our trainers turning their cards sideways to indicate that, of course, they've used that already.
Yeah, and I think we just got confirmation that there was an additional recon director that was unfortunately used there by Makani. So it will be a ruling of a double prize card penalty, because he did see the cards. Unfortunately, it wasn't just kind of maneuvered off the top, but he has seen it, so it is a double prize card penalty. But it's a scenario where you can still try and find a way back into this game, especially if your board state's in the way it is, especially where you've seen with Caleb's board state in the way it is as well. Maybe there's still some direction we can go down here.
Very, very true. We've seen the combative power of Dragapult continue to be incredibly oppressive, and sometimes even with 2 fewer prize cards to take, if you're Caleb, sometimes just if your opponent slows you down enough, it can indeed just spell disaster.
Yep, let's see exactly how this continues to pan out. Of course, there's still so much to come. And like I said, our players are seasoned enough there when they know they've made a mistake. But that's fine. We're moving on. We're continuing the game here right now. So as you can see just on the prizes, there are 2 red Pokeballs marked just to indicate that that's the double card prize penalty for Caleb. So he does have to take 2 fewer prizes to win this game.
Yes, he only needs to get to the bottom of that red Pokeball now. 3 prize cards left to take. However, as we very well assess, Dragapult is the master of taking many prize cards in one turn, so Makani absolutely could make a comeback. Crispin is the card and supporter of choice for Caleb this turn, choosing a Psychic and Fire type energy, which I imagine is quite the important choice, as that fire energy is what was lacking from Dragapult EX, and now Caleb is in gear to go ahead in this battle even more so.
Yep, so it's just that decision to make now, whether Caleb starts to fire off some of those attacks, maybe start trying to take some of those easier knockouts. That Dracloak in the active spot is still just kind of waiting there, but or do we continue just slowing the game down? We've got 18 minutes, still just over 18 minutes. It is just an itchy pollen being
Slow
announced
and steady.
here.
It wins the race, Alex, and I think it's a good choice. Makani's still on the back foot. Caleb knows this and is just preparing for a larger turn later. Makani now has the tricky job of getting back in this game.
Yeah, I like the itchy pollen a lot, because it still just slows down Makani's opportunity to try and turn this game around, because it feels like crushing hammers are really the key for Makani now to try and stem the flow, try and get those energies off the opposing Dragapult EX, and maybe swinging into one of those EX Pokemon that don't necessarily get knocked out again, to give that bench space for Caleb to maybe bring in some more Dreepies at some stage when we take some of those off the prizes.
Yeah, Makani now looking to re-solidify this board state. What's Makani going to want to do this turn? Is it time to take out this Badu and start kind of taking prize cards back? Or is it another building turn, trying for Crushing Hammer and try and weaken Caleb's board state first, Alex?
I mean, the longer you wait, the longer you give Caleb an opportunity to fire off his own Phantom Dive, and that's a scary thought for sure. We do have the energy committed to the active now, so maybe this is the turn that Makani's thinking, well, maybe this is where I actually have to just go for it and apply enough of pressure and just see what Caleb comes back with. So we're just keeping an eye on Makani's recon directives now. It's just a pass over, so I think, yeah, just trying to play the slow game as well. Doesn't want to allow that Phantom Dive to happen onto his Dragapult EX first.
Yeah, first and foremost. Caleb now in a tricky position. Does he choose to go aggressive, or is it still a waiting game? Caleb going for his first recon directive to continue to have every possible resource he's going to need to string together a win here. 3 prize cards remaining for Caleb to take. Can he try and take all 3 in one turn?
It's very possible, but when you haven't got any damage counters on your board to be playing with, Caleb will need to just look for different targets down first. So the boss's orders on the other Dracloak with no energy attached means you're just forcing Makani to have to look for more energies to be able to even retreat to fire off Phantom Dive. And just checking all those resources now. I mean, not too much has been played. There's a lot of supporters, of course. Makani here using those tokens just to indicate or help indicate the recon directives now.
Another Dragapult potentially secured for Makani. Yeah, going for that one, but still now in a slowed position. Makani doesn't have any energy on that active. And again, having to commit it for not much avail right now just feels so sluggish. Looks like Makani might be choosing to maneuver or just pass.
It's such an awkward scenario to be in because you just don't want to be giving up those Phantom Dive damage counters on the board. It is a pass over, just saying I'm setting up the board depending on which direction you go in, Caleb. But Caleb's also just kind of taking stock of the scenario as well. Badu really just kind of putting in work for the time being. Remember,
Neither
Caleb
player really wants to break this lock.
No, that's it. And Caleb, you know, he still wants to try and maintain the board, like a strong board position. But when you're only working with one Dracloak, that's your only engine at the moment. If we fire off another Itchy Pollen now, it does mean Makani will have a full value Adrenabrain. So does that mean Caleb considers evolving up? Or maybe considers attacking on this turn? Yeah, I feel like evolving up is probably the safest play, just not to sacrifice it. But this is a scary position, I think.
It's a very scary position. Both players are kind of too anxious to step over the line and announce that first attack, and for good reason. Dragapult is a great comeback deck, and the moment a Pokemon is knocked out, you unleash a plethora of cards that your opponent can use against you. Well assessed, Alex. That's an evolution for Caleb. Caleb's now retreating Badu. Maybe it's time. We're going to finally see Caleb say Phantom Dive.
We're at least going down to just 2 prizes Caleb will need to win this game 2 here. So just kind of making a final decision in terms of the damage counter placement. Caleb, where will you place these? 6 to play around with. Prize taken.
And on to Makani's turn we go. Looks like we need some damage counters on that bench.
He might have just jet headbutted. He might have just jet headbutted.
It was just a jet headbutt. Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, so that's just the one way to not give Makani any value from that Adrenabrain. Doesn't want to muck around with that. Here comes the Crushing Hammers, though. These are so important. The Tails is not good.
No.
Oh, it's not happening for Makani this time round. Double Tails.
Really clever using jet headbutt like that. See, I'm a player who would have gone in way too aggressive, but Caleb knows exactly how that's going to be used against him with that Monkey Dory. So clever, and really why these are our pro players, and I'm behind the desk, Alex.
Never say that, Amy. Never say that. There's an
Oh,
opportunity
bless
for
you.
all of us. Dragapult EX evolved up on the bench now as well for Makani. Ultra Ball, all these items now being played because we're no longer under that item lock. Also remember, Caleb, because we've relinquished the Itchy Pollen and also evolved up that Dracloak on the bench, there is no draw power right now, at least without seeing a knockout on a Pokemon.
Ever so true. I love the way that Caleb is also avoiding that special red card by staying really low on prize cards purposefully.
Yep, so it's just a Pheasantipity being targeted from that Ultra Ball by Makani. Could Makani see 3 impactful cards that could turn this around? That Pheasantipity does mean it's an easy target for Caleb's final 2 prizes at some stage as well.
But sometimes Pheasantipity is needed to flip the script, draw 3 further cards. Are those cards what Makani needs to turn this around? He's got a Fire Energy. Xerosic's Machinations is certainly going to make an impact on Caleb's hand, now having to discard down to 3 cards.
If Makani attacks, a Boss's Orders and the Adrenabrain will mean we'll be able to just take down the Pheasantipity EX. But whether he has it or not is a different question. Makani playing this Xerosix, seeing all those Dragon Pokemon being pitched away because of the effect of the supporter, including Unfair Stamp, holding on to a few cards there.
3 cards is not a lot when Caleb had put so much effort in to making sure that every card in his hand was cherry-picked. So Makani's timing with that was beautiful. And now Monkey Dory's promoted. And it's a pass. Protecting his assets, Makani leaves Monkey Dory alone in the active spot.
Yeah, made really, really interesting display because Caleb does need to take 2 prize cards, of course. Now overloading or choosing to overload that Dragapult EX in case more Crushing Hammers come down as an opportunity, or can potentially look for a different route here as well. Just doesn't want to see it again from the Lilies, for example.
Lily's bringing back plenty of cards to Caleb's hand. However, Caleb had lots of cards in his hand beforehand that he rather wanted, and those are now in the discard pile thanks to, or no thanks to, Xerosic. Caleb choosing to go with his Ultra Ball to further thin down his hand and deck.
Yeah, there is Boss's Orders still in the deck, still available for Caleb, so that'll be a point we're looking for that. But Crushing Hammers first, Tails once again.
These Crushing Hammers are not behaving this game at all in the slightest.
It's probably a good thing for Makani's side.
Yes, that's true.
So we could see a slower game plan from Caleb once again. I mean, could retreat into Badoo, because regardless, it's still, even if you take down Monkey Dory, you're still one more attack. Well, you're still having to take down one of the big EX Pokemon to win the game.
Ever so true.
Or do we slow it down? It's just the, it's just a Phantom Dive for the knockout. 6 damage counters going on to the Dragapult with the double energies, and then also Pheasantipity taking damage counters as well.
Making
Caleb?
that Pheasantipity within the range of Dragon, kind of decimation with that Phantom Dive by just putting a few extra damage counters on so that it's within that range of 200 damage.
Yeah, so flip the script. We find 1 Crushing Hammer. Makani can now play this to try and turn it. Finally hits ahead, but there's 3 energies on that active. Guess it's the fire.
Yeah. Fire energy gone to the discard pile. So Caleb now in a position where he's going to need to try and get one of those back on his turn. Makani placing down another Monkey Dory, which is why we saw the extra damage being placed on that Pheasantipity, because Makani might be able to take some of the damage off Pheasantipity and fling it back over to Caleb's board at this stage if he has any Dark Energy left.
Yeah, there wasn't really much else in Makani's hand, so played down the Crispin. I don't think found any targets there.
Oh no.
So it's just having to use the Night Stretcher for the Dark Energy. Now gets it back live with that Monkey Dory, so Adrenabrain is available as well. Adrenabrain utilized by Makani, saving the active Dragapult EX, 30 damage. Now just double checking those resources. Still up against it. Caleb only needs to take one more prize, remember.
However, Makani is not looking great. A really thin deck size at this stage, and Makani doesn't have any draw power on the board whatsoever other than Pheasantipity.
So what are those 3 cards in Caleb's hand, Amy? Will it be the way to do this? There's a Fire Energy there, so we're going to be able to get an attack off. Can we do much else? Crushing Hammer again.
We can continue to potentially slow things down. Caleb's going to have a tough time taking that final prize card without boss's orders.
Keeps going off table.
Oh,
Tails.
it's a Tails. Have we flipped a single heads on Crushing Hammer this game? I feel like there's been just that one from the Fire Energy.
That scary Fire Energy, the only one in hand. If he commits it to the active, that's an easy target to go down from Makani's side of the board. Does have another fresh Dragapult, so we could see a retreat into the second Dragapult on the bench as well. Yet there's a Fire Energy committed to that instead. And a Lily's Determination, so we'll get to see 6 cards. We'll, at some point, be looking to try and find that boss's orders. The deck's pretty small as well, Amy.
It is, on both sides, to be honest. We are really at the end of the tether. Neither player has many resources left, as this battle has gone on for quite a while. Both players have been so cautious with their attacks and meticulous with their gameplay, and importantly so. Caleb's still holding back for the moment and not committing to the active Dragapult as currently seen, slowing things down once again.
Yeah, Caleb's shoulder was in the way of seeing the whole hand completely, but I didn't think there was a boss's orders for the next turn. It looks like we're going to try and slow it down, just as you said, Amy. Doesn't have to send up the Dragapult until we try and find the boss's orders in reality. Also, maybe giving up something like the Badoo so that we can actually then get Pheasantipity draw with the flip the script if it has to go down as well. So forcing Makani also into a bit of an awkward spot.
Yeah, Badoo forces Makani down a gear, as now Makani won't be able to play item cards on this turn. Very bad not getting that boss's orders for Caleb. Makani has bought a little bit of extra turn.
We see the red cards, a special red card also in Makani's hand right now, but is that the decision? Just kind of, I mean, we wouldn't be able to have a read necessarily. On.
I don't think we can play it yet because we are item locked still.
Oh, yeah, good point. Sorry, apologies. Yep.
So no special red card yet. Badoo has shut that opportunity down. Great tell from Caleb, knowing that being on 3 prize cards is a little bit tricky. So actually, preventing that opportunity is actually a fantastic play.
Thank you so much, Amy. It's one of those few things. Just kind of also see it once again. But here comes Monkey Dory's Adrenabrain right now. Or at least kind of decisions here. It's a real awkward spot because Makani really doesn't want to necessarily take down Badoo. So it is just a pass over. And Caleb doesn't have the boss's orders yet.
No, I think it might honestly be advantageous for Caleb to continue itchy pollinating until he naturally draws into the boss's orders. What Makani's doing right now isn't particularly of any danger to Caleb until Makani starts going aggressive or can set up a full 6 prize turn.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the only way right now Makani has to look for. So this is what we mentioned already a little bit earlier. Because we've only had access to that one Dracloak because we had an early Dragapult EX. We had to protect it. That's why we evolved it up once again. And there's no draw power. The only draw power, I've said it a couple times, is that Pheasantipity if something goes down. So another itchy pollen, Amy.
Crispin again looking to just thin things down. goodness gracious. It is tough if you're Makani, but the top deck, and there it is, a defeat and a victory, match win. We have a huge KO, finally bringing this match home.